Hi folks, we are now officially 1 month into these videos together, and I'm really thankful that so many of you are enjoying them and watching them. So you might have noticed recently that I've relabeled some of them, and I've gone back because I didn't have a whole lot of time when I decided to get these ready to bring to everybody on such short notice. And so the practices are the same, but you'll notice that some of the titles are different. So hopefully you can still find them. If you're not sure which ones they were, let me know, send me a message, and I'll help you find the ones that you really liked. I'm going to continue to offer more. Today's practice is a flow class, and it is suitable. I'm going to do the class with all levels. So it's labeled an all levels flow because I'll take you through first from a beginner, and then I'm going to take it through to an intermediate and possibly advanced for those of you that want to do it. Keeping in mind, just because I'm doing it doesn't mean you're doing it. You got to remember that I'm making this video for so many different types of practices, different bodies, different abilities. And so just because you can't do it doesn't mean you're not good at yoga. We always listen to our body. Even if you can do advanced, sometimes it's really great to scale it back to what is called beginner. I hesitate to use beginner, but you'll see that I use it a lot in my titles because that's how people search. So I believe that I am truly a beginner, and I really struggle with using the words beginner, intermediate, advanced. However, that is how people look for videos, and so I have to use them in my titles. So always know that if I've labeled something all levels, I'll do my best to give you all different levels and make it yours. I'll meet you on the mat for the flow. With our hands in Anjali Mudra at heart center. Spread your toes nice and wide. Lower them back down onto the ground. Firm up your thighs. Pull the kneecaps up by engaging your quadriceps and root down into the earth to allow you to rise up to the sky. So we have this beautiful balance from our navel up and down. With your hands at heart center, take a deep breath into the lungs, filling and inflating those floating ribs. And exhale out of your mouth, 3 cleansing breaths. And as you exhale, feel yourself rooting down. And as you inhale, feel yourself rising up. So again, inhale, feel yourself rising up. And exhale, rooting down. Once more, inhale, finding that balance. And exhale, letting it go. So it's important to remember our roots as we continue to fly. Let's come right down onto the mat. Come into a seated pose. Maybe kneeling. You may be using props today. I don't have mine with me, but you are always encouraged to use props. Closing your eyes. Hands may stay at heart center or they may rest on your thighs. Begin to be aware of the reason that you are on your mat. Really tuning into what it is that you're asking of this practice. And know that it's within your ability to give that to yourself. Just remember the quote from The Wizard of Oz with Glinda. Glinda the Good Witch. You've always had the power, my dear. You just had to find it within yourself. I may be paraphrasing. But that is essentially the message. So what brought you to the mat? Have you been looking outside of yourself for it? And if you have, turn inwards because the answer is there. The possibilities are there. The ability is there. If you want happiness, look to yourself for happiness. If you want things to change, look to yourself for things to change. Take a deep breath in and release. Beginning today's practice with the chanting of Om. Feel that vibration right through the crown of your head. We'll come down to child's pose position to begin to warm our joints up before we move into deeper movements. Drawing your knees about shoulder width apart. Let your sitting bones draw back to your heels. Spread your fingers wide. Press the knuckles of your fingers down to the mat and then pull the mat towards you and feel your upper back muscles engage. Stretch the crown of your head down towards your hands. Start to invite Ujjayi Pranayama, that slight sound at the back of the throat as you, same sound that you would hear if you were fogging up a mirror. And this particular pranayama helps to stabilize the mind and create some internal heat. And you're invited to maintain that breath work throughout your practice. So you inhale, lift slightly, walk over to the right, and exhale, draw your sitting bones back, feeling a deep stretch into the left side of the body, staying here for a couple of breaths. Inhale back up through center and over to the other side. And exhale, draw your sitting bones back again, feeling a nice opening from the outer right hip to the right side of the ribs. Inhale, coming back through center. Spread those fingers wide once again and draw your shoulders over your wrists. Separate your toes. Knees become hip distance apart. Just make sure your shoulders aren't beyond your wrists here. If anything, draw your knees slightly back. Begin to exhale, draw the sitting bones back, and we're going to rock forward and back in connection with our breath. Inhale, shoulders over wrists. Exhale, drawing back. Make sure the belly is drawing up and into the spine. Inhale, shoulders over wrists. Exhale, sitting bones drawing back, waking up the soles of the feet as well. Do this a few more times. So we're getting in here into the joints of the wrists, the shoulders, the hips, the knees, the ankles, toes. And as you come forward, intentionally pulling the mat towards you, feeling the strength of your arms. Once more. And this time as you draw yourselves back, bring your knees, if they're not underneath your hips, directly underneath your hips. Feel your elbows elevate off the floor, broadening across your upper back. Begin to press your feet, toes into the floor. Elevate your hips. Now, if this isn't available to you, you stay right down where you were. So remember, all levels. The modification for downward dog is knees on the ground. Let's take 5 breaths wherever you're at. Wherever you're at, the most important thing here is to come into the sensations of your breath in this moment. You can check to ensure that your pelvic floor is still supporting your practice by lifting in and up, and the lower belly is drawing in and up towards the rib cage. Shoulders come over wrists, lower the knees back down to the ground. Draw the sitting bones back. And then sweep the hands alongside your body so you come to kneeling. As you're kneeling, inhale, sweep the arms up. A little bit of a back bend, exhale down through your heart. Do that 4 more times. Inhale, root down through the knees, reach up through the heart. Starting to invite a little bit of a back bend before we ask a little bit more from the spine. And once more, inhale, reach up. And exhale to your heart. Inhale, arms out wide. Exhale, right elbow underneath the left. Bring inner edges of the elbows together or interlace your hands into Garudasana arms, keeping those hips right above the knees. Start to breathe across the upper back. Take your rib into that upper rib cage, or take your breath into that upper rib cage. And not only is in the upper back, the upper part of the rib cage, but it also is coming down into the lower ribs. So you're finding the full composition of those lungs. Inhale, arms out wide. Exhale, left elbow underneath. Take a few conscious breaths here. Again, if it's too much, separate the elbows. Inhale, arms out wide. And exhale, bring them back down alongside your body. Rotate your right palm up. Inhale, reach that right arm up. Exhale, slide the left hand down the side body. Gaze down past your left side. Too much, back it off. Bring your hand onto your head or keep it down along your side body. Press down through the knees. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, out to the other side. Switch sides. Inhale, left arm up. Exhale, over. Breathing into the left rib cage area. Softening shoulder away from ear. Press down through the knees. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, out and down. Come back down onto your hands and your knees. Draw the sitting bones back to the heels. Inhale, hips up high. Option. Or you can keep them down low. Inhale, right toe to rise. Now press your right armpit down a little bit more to the floor. Feel that stretch moving into the back of the left leg. Keep the left kneecap lifted. Exhale, release that right foot down. Inhale, reach through your left toes all the way up. Press the left armpit down a little bit more. Notice how that moves into the back of the right leg a little more. And exhale, left toes down to the ground. Begin to bend your knees, walk your feet to the top of your mat. Lengthen the crown away from the sitting bones, and exhale, fold over those thighs. Inhale, extend, reach the crown up about partway. Exhale, fold pelvis over thighs, lengthening spine. Inhale, broadening chest. Exhale to fold. Inhale, extending crown halfway up. Exhale, folding over long legs. Bend the knees. Inhale, sweep the arms up, press down into the feet. Exhale, hands to heart center. So we're going to start to go through Surya Namaskar A, and I'll take you through different levels, of course. Take any modifications you need. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, folding over those thighs. Plant the hands or hands on shins or touch the floor. Exhale, fold, step the feet back. Knees on the ground is an option. I'll take the modified option for number 1. Exhale, bending the elbows into the rib cage. Toes lengthen along the ground. All 10 toes reach down, navel away from the earth. Shine your heart. Exhale to lower down. Tuck toes, pulling yourself up and back, either into child's pose. Spread those fingers wide, active child's pose, or elevate those hips into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Feeling the quadriceps active here. Press the earth away with the hands. Heels reaching down towards the ground. Think about pressing the thigh bones back in space, creating length from your wrists to your sitting bones, from your sitting bones to your heels. Of course, the pelvic floor continues to support you here, as does the breath. Riding that Ujjayi pranayama. Bending the knees, step, walk, or float the feet to the top of the mat. Lengthen spine and exhale, folding over long legs. Bend the knees, inhale, press the earth away, reach up. Exhale, back to your heart. Moving this time through a little bit faster and with less modifications, or you can take those modifications reaching up. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, extending crown away from sitting bones. Plant the hands, step the feet back. Knees are optional. I'm going to stay up and slowly lower down. Lowering the hips to the ground this time. Lengthen the toes. Open the chest. Nice smooth curve in the spine. tuck the toes, pressing back child's pose or downward facing dog. Breathing here. Make sure the neck is relaxed. Ears are in between those upper arms. Legs active. Feet approximately parallel. Beautiful lengthening here through the back of the body. Begin to bend the knees. Take your gaze forward and your feet forward. Look up. Exhale, fold over long legs. Inhale, press the earth away, reach up. Exhale, coming back to your heart. Third time through Surya Namaskar. Inhale, reach to rise. Exhale, pelvis over thighs as you bow forward. Inhale, lifting up part way. Exhale, take those feet back. Remember your options. I'm going to stay high. Slowly lower down. This time upward facing dog for my variation. Shifting the heart forward, keeping the hips off of the floor. Those legs stay strong so you're not dumping into the low back if you've chosen this option. Breathing here. Tuck the toes, pulling up and back. Downward facing dog. Let that breath soothe you and energize you. Finding that balance, finding what it is you came to this practice for today. Looking forward, take your feet forward, step, walk, or float forward. Look up part way. Exhale, bow down over long legs. Press the earth away. Inhale, reach up. Exhale to your heart. We'll now go through Surya Namaskara B. Maybe your big toes will come together. We don't want those heels to sway out. Bend the knees. Inhale, sweep those arms down alongside the legs and reach all the way up. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, look up part way. Exhale, hands plant. Step those feet back. Knees are optional. Slowly to lower. Inhale, shine the hearts, firm up the thighs. Exhale, back into downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot steps forward. Pivot and plant the back foot, reaching up. I'll show you the next modification next time through. Exhale, sweep the arms forward, plant the hands underneath the shoulders, stepping back. Lowering down, knees again are an option. Inhale, open the chest, find that back bend. Bring those hips up and back into downward dog. This time left leg rises, steps forward, pivot and plant the right foot. Reach up, draw your left hip crease back, left shoulder back. Feel the outer edge of that back foot rooted. Lower the hands down, step back, slowly lower down through plank. Inhale, open the chest, shine it, find the beautiful back bend. Sitting bones draw back into child's pose or take those hips up high into downward facing dog. Choose your level. Breathing, being present with the breathing. Breathing to feel, to use that breath as a barometer for your practice. Knowing if you're holding your breath, that means you've gone too far. Let's take the feet to the top of the mat. We'll look up part way and exhale, bow down. Bending those knees, sweep the arms alongside the ears and come back to your heart. Bend the knees, sweep the arms alongside, reaching up. Stay here for a couple of breaths. Sit down a little bit lower and then inhale, reaching up. Exhale to fold. Hands plant. Step those feet back. Knees are optional. Lowering down chaturanga or knees on the ground. Inhale, find your back bend of choice. Tuck the toes, come back into downward facing dog. Child's pose option. Here's the modified version. If you're coming to it from child's pose or tabletop, is you do it from your knee and you step that foot forward. Those of you that have been practicing this for a while, you know how to do this without modifying. I'm simply showing the modified variations here. You can always take a break. You can always rest right here in child's pose. Maybe sit out one round. Or your hips are high and you're breathing in downward dog. Then bring your feet to the top of the mat and fold over those long legs. Bend the knees, sweep the arms alongside the ears, reach up. A little bit of a back bend, hands to your heart. So just 2 rounds of Surya Namaskara B. Now let's bring your hands along your waist. Step your right foot back about 2.5 feet, and take your left foot, take one big toe width over to the side, and then pivot your heel over there as well. So just broadening your stance by about one big toe width. Square your front of your pelvis to the narrow end of your mat, and exhale, fold over that left thigh bone, drawing the left hip crease back. Lengthen energy through the quadriceps. Option to interlace your hands behind your back, looking down towards that big toe, pressing the earth away. Open and broaden the collarbones. Press the earth away. Inhale, come up. Step your feet together to the top of the mat. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, maybe taking that front foot one big toe width over and then bringing your heel along. Interlace your hands. Maybe take opposite elbows, maybe reverse prayer, press down into the ground, and then exhale, fold forward over that right thigh. Hands can rest on that front thigh as a modified version. Press the earth away. Inhale, come up. Step your back foot forward. Take a conscious breath in and out. Inhale, reach the arms up, and exhale, fold forward. Inhale, look up halfway. Exhale, hands reach the floor, stepping both feet back, option with your knees to the ground. We'll take some conscious breaths here in plank, pressing the earth away, strengthening the core muscles, option knees down, remember, or pressing thighs to the sky, pressing through your heels. Lowering that left knee to the ground, coming into side plank here, left hand under left shoulder. So modification number 1 is being demonstrated. Next is to stack one foot in front of the other. Next is to stack inner edges of your feet together or separate your feet. So lots of options here. Breathing here into side plank. Feel your side body lifting away from the floor. Let's pivot back and do this on the other side. So lowering your opposite knee down, right hand under right shoulder. Choose your option for your legs. Reaching both hands away from the heart and the side body away from the earth. And lowering down. Draw back into child's pose. Give your wrists a bit of a breather here. We're coming into 3-legged dog and modifications. I'll do the modifications first. So shifting shoulders over wrists, lifting the right leg up. This is a modified version. Then as we come into the next step is to lift your hips high, elevate that right foot up into a 3-legged dog. Bending the knee. And even as you open that hip, you're still pressing both armpits down towards the ground. Lots of action through that top ankle. My toes aren't lazy here. That foot is very active. You'd be doing the same thing on your hands and your knees, opening that knee out to the side to pivot that hip. Lower that leg down. Again, modified version first. And then other version, extending left leg up to the sky, bending the knee, bringing that heel in towards the glute, pressing both armpits down, trying to square the shoulders more towards the ground as you pivot open that top hip. Lengthen that top leg and lower it back down. Lower the knees to the ground. Draw the sitting bones back to the heels, perhaps holding the hands around the low back as the forehead rests on the ground, or maybe those arms drape on either side of your legs. Still continuing to feed the body that Ujjayi pranayama. Letting it wash over the mind and in the body. Extend the arms forward, elevating the sitting bones. Bringing that right foot underneath the armpit. Slide your left leg back a lot. Check that ankle is not way back and bring it back up and so it's underneath that front knee. And same with that back knee. If it's directly underneath the hip, I'm going to have you slide it further back. Create a lot of distance between your front and your back foot. Inhale, reaching the arms up to the sky. Drawing right hip crease back, right shoulder back. Modify arms as needed. Next level, peel your back knee off of the ground and press into that back heel to energize the back leg. Still pulling the pelvic floor in and up. Maybe reaching on the diagonal. Keep strong and long here. Connected to breath. Hands plant on the ground. Lower the knee. Coming into a spinal twist. So left hand under left shoulder. Right hand on thigh, maybe wrapping around the low back. Keep hugging that knee in towards the body. Next option, hand to the sky. Peel back knee off the ground. Make sure you're not dumping into that bottom wrist, but you're reaching up and out of that wrist. Take a look down to the floor. Hands find the earth, stepping back into downward dog, or knees on the ground, of course. Taking breaths in child's pose or Adho Mukha Svanasana. In downward dog, we're building upper body strength and creating length through the back of the body. Let's do that sequence on the other side. So again, from either tabletop or from downward dog, stepping that left foot forward as the right knee slides way back beyond the hip. Nice opening through the front of that hip. Inhale, sweeping the arms up as the hips come forward. Pelvic floor still lifting away from the floor. Left shoulder, left hip crease drawing back. So we can keep everything more square over our pelvis. Option of hands on thighs, or peeling back knee off the ground. Pressing actively through that back heel, and it's like you're trying to squeeze your front knee a little bit more forward. Come on the diagonal. So you're reaching actively here in two directions, through the fingers and through the heel. Plant the hands on the floor, preparing for your spinal twist. Lower that back knee and rotate your chest. I'm just going to just shift over to the other side. You're staying on your same side. Rotate that chest over towards that bent knee. Option 2, peel the back knee off the ground. Continue to spiral your chest, spiraling that rib cage up to the sky. Bring that left hand back down to the ground. Step your feet forward. Pelvis rotating over thighs, feeling that stretch through the back and the hamstring area. If it's available, you can go deeper into your forward fold. Only if it means not sacrificing your spine. Inhale, sweep the arms up. And then take a little bit of a seat as we come into chair pose. Make sure you can still see your toes. Hands on thighs is an option. Hands forward is option 2. Hands all the way up deepens the back bend here. Press into the earth. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, back to your heart. Step your left leg back. Prepare for warrior 2. So the right knee tracks over that right ankle and the outer edge of your back foot is in line with the narrow edge of your mat. Open nice and wide, facing the chest, the pelvis, the wide part of your mat. Feel your glutes active here. Draw your left glute, wrapping that left glute around to midline in the back of the body. Coming into Sun Warrior, left fingers just graze the back leg, opening that top arm, maybe wrapping the left hand around the low back to reach to the inner right thigh. Breathing into the right rib cage. Take arms wide. Once again, lengthen out the right leg, coming into Trikonasana, reaching and then elongating from your heart, both east and west. Press the earth away. Broaden the chest. Engage the glutes. Press, reach up. Reverse triangle. Left fingers again, grazing the leg, reaching up to the top corner of the ceiling where the wall meets on the diagonal. Breathe into the right ribs here. Arms back to parallel, bending into that right knee. And now take this over to the other side. Pivot your right foot in, begin to bend into your left knee. Left knee tracks towards the baby toe. And your right foot, I want you to bring that in so it's parallel to the back of the mat. I don't want that big toe pointing to that back corner of the mat. If anything, it's slightly tucking in. Open that front knee. Thigh bone of the left leg rotates towards the center of the mat, and the knee rotates towards the baby toe. Shoulders over hips. Slight engagement through the muscles in the arms. Come into Sun Warrior. Right hand alongside the leg or wraps around the thigh, opening and breathing into the left rib cage here. Reaching that left arm up and out of the hip. Arms become parallel. Lengthen that left leg. Maybe narrow your stance a little bit. You want to make sure the soles of your feet are on the ground, so you're not lifting, and maybe if your stance is too wide, that means maybe the foot doesn't reach the ground, so just narrow slightly and come into Trikonasana. Spread the fingers from your heart. Lengthening and elongating both sides of your rib cage. Inhale, come up. In reverse triangle, right fingers touch down, reaching left arm alongside the left ear. Bending into that left knee. Let those feet become parallel again. Encircle the waist, draw the elbows close towards each other in the back body. I'm just going to flip around so I'm facing you. Check out the position of my feet. The toes aren't pointing out. Their inner edges of the feet are parallel. Pressing the earth away with the feet as I lift up through my heart. Lifting through the pelvic floor, elbows squeeze together. Broad across the heart. Don't drop that head back. Keep opening through the front of the throat, but not dropping back. It keeps this idea of lifting up. And now take that lifting up and change it into folding forward. Rotate pelvis over thighs. My spine is staying about parallel to the floor here. Bend your knees as needed. And continuing to fold into the depth of your forward fold. Hands either on blocks or on the floor. Truly, if your stance is more narrow, it's more challenging. And so to make it more accessible, if the inner thighs allow, is you actually take your feet wider. That makes this a more accessible pose. To get into the hamstrings, we engage the quadriceps. And we lengthen and cascade that spine forward. It melts forward. It bowing down. And let's walk the hands a little bit more forwards through underneath the shoulders. Right hand underneath that right shoulder. Spiral the heart up, looking and rotating that rib cage towards the sky. Option hand on the low back. Looking just beyond that shoulder. And release that hand down. Left hand underneath the shoulder, spiral the heart open, gazing up towards the fingertips or straight ahead. Make sure the heels are on the ground. Remember the option to wrap the arm around the low back. And release that hand down. Heel toe your feet in and then lower your knees down to the ground. Now take your knees, make sure they're on something cushy, on the mat and not on your floor, so readjust. We want to be resting on the inner edges of our knees, coming into something called tadpole or frog. If that's not available, take a really wide child's pose. So working towards resting on the inner edges of the knees. And full variation of frog, we bring the ankles underneath those knees in the same line, rotate the arches of the feet down to the floor, really separate the inner edges of your thighs. And folding down here onto your forearms, if that's available. Really deep external rotation here, ride your breath. Begin to bring your hands under, bring those big toes together and walk your knees closer together. Come to kneeling, shoulders over hips, hips over the knees. Extend the arms up to the sky, reaching up out of the shoulders. Tuck back toes and keeping those hips above those knees. Don't dump into your low back here. Keep the pelvic floor lifting up. It's like you're lifting up and out of your pelvis. Maybe try one hand at a time onto your heels. Next option, reaching both hands back again, but not if this means that you're dumping into your low back. So keep lifting the heart up. Next level is lowering the tops of the feet, the fronts of the ankles to the floor, and then pressing those hips forward so the pelvis stays above the knees. Full variation of camel here, deep back bend, which is a great preparation for where we may be going later in this practice for some of you. Let's inhale, come back up, and exhale, lower those hands down. Let's come into Vajrasana. Big toes slightly apart, nestle your sitting bones down or sit on blocks here. Bring the hands forward. Okay, so we're going to work towards Hanumanasana, which is the split, stepping your right foot forward. Ankle underneath the knee, staying right here, just opening through the psoas, the front of the hip, and then we'll start to get into the hamstrings. So let's start to caterpillar that right foot forward and stopping wherever you need. Stopping where you need. Your body will let you know. I'm sliding my other leg back a little bit more. Maybe staying here. If you've got a bolster, you can rest on that. Or slide that front foot more forward. Maybe sitting on blocks here, being here, maybe pressing into the tips of your fingers to help hold you up. Maybe coming into the full variation, scissoring those legs apart, shoulders over the hips, full variation. So this is Hanumanasana, where Hanuman stepped over the mountain in that story to get a ring. Next level is lowering the spine, the chest over that front leg. Find your breath. Never hold the breath. Find the breath. Coming up and out of that pose, just the way we came into it. Tucking the back toes. Lifting up, and now pivot over to the other side here. So we're going back and forth, making one end of our mat become the top of our mat. It's going around the world. So slide your other leg back. So really take that back knee back a lot, and maybe stay here. Maybe stay here and breathe here. Maybe start to caterpillar that front foot forward. Stopping along the way anytime you need. Explore and breathe. Breathe and explore. Pause. Not bouncing, breathing with presence. So maybe it's your first time through, maybe you've never seen this before, and that's okay. You can come back to this and do this practice again and again and again and start to try the different variations, different varieties. Coming back out of it the way you came into it. Tuck the back toes and come facing the wide part of your mat once again. Hands come onto your hips, press into the earth. Inhale, come up. And step your feet together. So for a balanced practice, we just focused here on our front of our hip and on our hamstrings, and now we're going to stretch out our quadriceps with dancer pose and its variations. Let's start to encircle the waist with our hands, both feet on the floor to begin. Draw the right heel in towards the right glute. Maybe it looks like this. Maybe you're holding a wall with one hand. Maybe you've got a strap. Maybe you actually take the foot into the hand and draw your knees close together once again and point that bent knee right down to the floor. Get a good stretch through your quadricep as you press the hand and the foot towards each other. So really press that foot into the hand. Next level, next step, if you want to explore, is reaching forward. Coming into dancer pose, continuing to press the foot into the hand, gazing just past those front fingers. And coming back up and out of it nice and slowly. Spread the toes on the right foot. Reach up through the pelvic floor, bringing the left hand. If your knee's out wide, then please narrow it. You'll notice that your balance is askew. You can always use a wall. Use a strap or press the foot into the hand as you squeeze those inner thighs close together. Maybe opening up a little bit more. Maybe reaching the arm, opposite arm up to the sky and hinging forward. This is a little bit of a back bend here. Continue to press the foot into the hand. Graceful arch of the spine and releasing up and out with control. Hands to heart center. Continuing to work on balance with an arm balance. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, folding forward. Now begin to heel toe your feet wider so that your feet are on a diagonal, a little bit of a diagonal line here. Maybe peel your maybe peel your heels off the floor and bring your arm bones to the inner edges of your knees. You can stay right here, especially if the palms don't come to the floor. You can simply work from this place, breathing here with your heels lifted. If you'd like to explore crow or crane is done with arms long and the knees up into the armpits, and crow is with a bend in the elbow as you balance on your arm bones. So next level, if the palms come to the floor, maybe walk your big toes together and rest those shins on those upper arm bones, maybe one toe off the floor at a time. You're gazing forward here, shifting some weight into the tips of your fingers using strong core, and lower those feet back down. So I'm showing the modified version here. You can stay up if you want to keep practicing. Maybe come into crane, taking the bend out of the elbows, bringing those knees into the armpits, or backing off here. So I'm going to bring my hands into reverse prayer, praying mantis hands. You can do this from standing too if you want to give your legs a little bit of a break. So we'll come into side crow. Bring your big toes together. Again, you can stay here working on your hamstrings. Side crow involves a spinal twist. I'm just going to rotate so I can show you this. Once again, elevate your heels. Maybe you're staying here. Maybe you start to bend into your knees. Now take your right arm to the outer edge of your left thigh. So reaching up and spiral around. So you're now coming into a bit of a spinal twist. It's really important to keep squeezing the legs towards that arm, and bring your other arm so it hugs in towards your side body. You want there to be contact here, or this is almost impossible. Ankles and knees need to stay glued together, and the body needs to be in contact with those upper arm bones. Fingers spreading nice and wide. Distribute the weight evenly. Gaze out past, I need to just shift here. Gaze out past your fingers. And just as you shift your weight slightly forward into the tips of your fingers, your body will begin to lift. The toes are off the ground, or maybe they're not. That's okay too. Breathing here. You can separate the feet and play with that. That's a whole other balance pose that I've taught, but not today unless you're practicing that. Let's come back out. Lower the knees to the ground. Again, give your wrists a little bit of a break. This can be quite challenging on the wrists. And I really don't want you to proceed with this if the palms can't come flat on the floor. I don't want you to, there's no need to hurry the progression of any pose. Wherever you're at is good. As long as you're there with the intention to not cause harm, and you're here to simply explore. So we're going to take this to the other side. So begin to lift your heels, squeeze the ankles and the knees together, this time bringing that right hand to the outer edge of your left thigh. Squeeze the body close to those arms so that they're in contact. Spread the fingers wide. Begin to shift the weight forward. Shift the weight forward. Reach through the crown of your head. Engage your toes. Spread your toes wide. Spread your toes wide. Keep the knees and the ankles glued together. Balancing here. You've got this. Breathing here. Taking flight in your side crow, slowly lowering down and pivoting your chest so you're folding over the thighs and unravel and come on up. Inhale, stretch the arms wide, move your wrists around a little bit and float them down. Nice effort, everyone. Hands to heart center. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, folding forward. Heel, toe heel, those feet wide once again. Widening our base, widening our base, widening our base. And begin to bend into that right knee. Walk that right foot out a little bit more so you've got healthy alignment of the knee tracking or the center of the foot. And then simply do that over to the other side for a couple of breaths. And bringing both knees down to the ground. As you bring your knees down to the ground, I'm going to have you come right down onto your back. So that might feel pretty good right now. Let that pelvis, the weight of the pelvis is rest on the earth. Ensure that you're still connected to Ujjayi Pranayam. Center of the back of the head on the ground. The breath fluid in the body, tuning into that. So we'll be coming into a variation of pigeon pose, but we'll start by extending that right foot up to the sky. Stretching into those hamstrings in a more relaxed way. Try not to pull, but relax that upper body. So maybe it means holding a little bit lower down onto the thigh. Maybe you'd like to lengthen the other leg along the floor. Bend that knee. Hug that shin in towards the body. Rock a little bit side to side. So again, showing you the variation first. You can come into figure 4, placing that ankle on the thigh. So that would be your right foot on that left thigh, or you'd like to come into this reclined on your back variation of pigeon. So only do this if your knee doesn't feel like it's aggravated. And making this rotation come from that hip socket. The ankle is very stable on both feet. Pivoting that right knee out to the side as you draw that right leg close to the body. If it's possible, you put that foot into the crease of that left elbow, like you're hugging a baby, maybe lowering the spine back down to the floor. Keep resting if you're in this pose, not resting, but intentionally pressing that left thigh down to the ground. It doesn't look like mine is, but I am actually intentionally trying to press that left thigh down to the ground as I hug that right thigh in towards my chest. And if you're in figure 4 or the other pose, begin to release out. Come into either half happy baby pose or coming into half stirrup pose. So depending on what your starting point was. It's half stirrup pose if the leg is long. It's half happy baby pose if the leg is bent. Doesn't matter what it is. Feeling into wherever you're at. And now take that bent leg out to the side. You can hold the under part of that thigh, or you can hold that, press that left hand on top of that left side of the pelvis to make sure it doesn't roll up. And release that down. Again, starting either in a figure 4 position with that left foot on that right thigh bone. Maybe drawing up is next level. Maybe coming into this variation of pigeon pose on your back, rocking that hip in the socket a little side to side. Bring the left knee into the left elbow, only if this isn't torquing the knee. So you want, this is a really deep hip opener here. And this time actively pressing right thigh bone down to the ground. Broaden across the chest, broaden across the upper back, and keep that breath nice and broad and deep. Releasing out either from figure 4, coming into half happy baby pose, or half stirrup pose. And that knee out towards the side body by the rib cage. Hold the thigh or the ankle or the foot. And let's take that leg out wide. Other leg can be bent. You can support the outer part of that knee. You can use a strap. And releasing back to center, hug that knee in. And because we missed the hamstring stretch on this side, we have to even that out. So make sure we offer the hamstrings on the left the same love that we offered on the right. Beautiful. And both knees now coming in towards the chest. Let's release those feet down to the floor. So I'll be taking you through some variations here. It's really important that you don't try some of the variations unless you've done them before with a teacher. We'll start first in bridge pose, and then I'll build the practice into chakrasana, which is wheel pose. Again, that is an advanced pose, and it is not for everybody here. So you might like to place a block between your thighs for bridge. Make sure that there's engagement through those inner thighs. The feet are parallel. It's the idea of lifting the hips to the sky. Please don't bow those knees out to the side. Keep those inner thighs magnetized. Next level, interlace your hands, stretching those arm bones down to the ground and then reaching the knuckles towards the heels. Shifting the rib cage towards the chest. Next level, if it's available to you, holding the ankles. We're slowly building the back bend here. Again, it's not for everyone. Choose your option. The next level is chakrasana. And so again, you might stop and observe in case this is something you'd like to learn in a future time with a teacher. If it's in your practice, plant your hands underneath your shoulders, fingertips point towards the hips. Please do not rest on the crown of your head. I'm not a supporter of that method. Make sure your elbows stay relatively parallel. So on your next in-breath, you're going to press through the hands and press through the feet. Inhale, reaching up. Pressing and reaching those hips to the sky. Your glutes are strongly contracted here. Gazing down towards the hands and then slowly lowering down. If you've done that before and you'd like to stay up there a little bit longer, feel free. When you're ready, you'll come down. Let your pelvis rest on the ground for a moment. Just let it rest. Let your back receive that release. And then let your knees come together. Walk your feet out towards the edges of the mat. Walk your shoulder blades towards each other in the back body. Bring those knees more parallel again. And now let's cross the right thigh over the left, arms out into a T. Now pick up your glutes, shift them slightly over, and lower your knees down to the left. Find your variation. Maybe you want to unlink your legs. Maybe you want to stack your knees. You discover which shape is best for you today. And begin to release out. Make sure your pelvis is in neutral before you come to the other side, and then set up and take your shape over to the other side. Begin to release that out. Draw one knee and then the other into the chest. Present with breath. And circle those knees around a few times in each direction. Squeeze in and then lower back down to the ground. Butterfly pose, soles of the feet come together, knees drop open wide. You can hold the under part of your thighs. You can rest one hand on the heart, one on belly, and remember what brought you to this practice. See if you made space for that to evolve, for that seed to get watered. And notice how you feel. Releasing your Ujjayi pranayama if you still got it. This gift of practice that you've given yourself. Feeling spacious in the body, spacious in the heart, free in the mind. Recognizing all the space that was created from this practice. And prepare for final relaxation, Shavasana. Spreading the feet wide, let the toes flop open, arms out wide. You can always grab your socks or a blanket or bolsters. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Surrender the weight of the body to the floor. Relax the muscles from the toes all the way up to the crown. And from the crown all the way down to the toes, and maybe sweep through the body a couple of times. Each time you sweep through, relaxing a little bit more. The weight of the bones, the weight of the muscles, the internal organs, dropping down to the earth, no more holding.
You can remain in Shavasana as long as you need. If you like, you can start to find breath in the body. Feel the fingers and the toes and meet me at seated. No hurry. And I'll conclude with one Om, closing the eyes, taking a breath in. Feeling that reverberation right out of your crown. That interconnectedness of all of us. Thank you for your presence, for your participation, for bringing yourself to the mat again and again. I bow to your light. Thank you. Namaste. And if you did enjoy this practice, just a gentle reminder to please be sure to click subscribe. That way you can come back to this practice again and again. And you will find it on the left side of your screen under subscriptions. Thank you. Have a super day.